What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Not About Wrestling. I'm your host, Chris Illuminati, and this week I'm talking to Ring of Honor star Danhausen. Donovan Danhausen got his start in the Michigan Indies. He was working at a local wrestling school while he was training. Donovan bounced around to different indie scenes, and the character of Danhausen slowly emerged along the way. Danhausen explained in an interview with Fansided back in 2019 that this character came from the frustration of trying to please everyone else by trying to be something that he's not. I was sick of just being a guy who wrestles, he explained. I didn't care anymore what people thought of me. I just wanted to make sure I was enjoying what I loved doing again. Danhausen pulls inspiration for his character from movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the original Batman movie, the good one with Michael Keaton, What We Do in the Shadows, and TV shows like The Simpsons and Late Night with Conan O'Brien. The character was actually originally more menacing and creepy, but then Donovan started adding a little bit of dark comedy to the presentation, and then the character really took off. He signed with Ring of Honor not too long ago, and he has one of the most popular lines of shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. Actually, his shirts were in such high demand, they're now available at Hot Topic stores around the country. This interview is unlike any of the others that I've done, because it's broken into two parts. In part one, I talked to Danhausen, the performer, and we cover some incredibly important topics like Cheetos mac and cheese, bowling, Walmart, his favorite curse words, and of course the best places to buy teeth. And then in part two of the interview, I actually talked to Donovan Danhausen, the creator of the character, about his evolution in both character and the makeup he does, the origins of the character, how he thinks up new ideas, and where he sees the character going in the next few years. It's really a fascinating interview, and I had fun talking to both sides of his personality. So, ladies and gentlemen, entering the podcast, hailing from someplace far away, this is Danhausen.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with a man who obviously needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's very nice. He's very evil. He's Danhausen. Danhausen, how are you?
Danhausen's doing very well. Danhausen is currently in the ROH bubble, awaiting to do tapings of some sort.
And what happens in the ROH bubble?
Nothing. Nothing at all. You sit here. He's enjoying Diet Cokes, if you will.
Did you put up those curtains yourself?
No, they were here when Danhausen arrived, and there was a bed and a couch, but there was no Diet Cokes. Danhausen spent $15 on these Diet Cokes, but it was on Dave Honor's dime.
And where did you get them?
7-Eleven. Postmates.
Do you like 7-Elevens?
Yes, they have Slurpees, though. You must be very careful when drinking them because they'll freeze your brain.
Do you enjoy a brain freeze?
No. And also, Danhausen tried putting on one of those little hats that keeps your head warm in the winter, and it did not help him while he was drinking the Slurpee.
What's your go-to Slurpee flavor?
Dr. Pepper.
That's a good one. Do you ever mix?
Oh, yes. You mix cherry with blue raspberry sometimes, or Coke. Coke, if you will. It'll be quite nice. Or maybe they'll have a random flavor that you can mix in.
I feel like either cherry or Coke are always the base, and then things get mixed into it.
There was an Addams Family flavor that was black cherry at the AMC theaters.
So are we talking like the more recent Addams Family or like the early Addams Family? The cartoon one.
Yes. No, Hallelujah.
So does Danhausen obviously goes to the movies because you just said what they had.
Movie Pass, you remember it? Rest in peace.
I do. That seemed like a pretty good idea at the time.
Yes, well, it was a good idea for consumers.
It was. What's one thing? Movies are probably going to be the thing that maybe possibly disappears because of COVID. What are some other things you think are going to disappear?
Bowling.
Bowling. Oh no.
Yes, hopefully. Danhausen hates bowling.
Do you like the shoes?
No, they smell. Who wants to wear someone else's shoes?
Bowlers?
Yes, exactly. Eliminate it.
Were you a good bowler?
It's a decent bowler, but Danhausen still hates it.
Okay. Is there anything you're really good at that you still hate?
Bowling, what else? That's it. Just bowling, really. Danhausen hates it.
Okay, that's
It is
fair.
the worst. No offense to bowlers, Danhausen just does not enjoy it.
I don't think we get a lot of bowling listeners to the show.
Well, perhaps you should start a bowling podcast then.
Oh, can we name it?
Yes. I don't know what though.
The pinners. How about a bowling wrestler?
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Well, like a wrestler dressed up as a bowler.
Like Kingpin.
Yes. Like, remember in the 90s in the WWE, like, everybody moonlit as, like, a job? Like, there was
Yes.
the garbage man. Yes.
The garbage man. The bowler.
Yeah, the bowler.
The Undertaker.
Yes. You'd think
He has an occupation.
an Undertaker would make a lot of money that he wouldn't need to wrestle.
One would think, but then he appeared to make more money doing cameos.
Does anyone ask you to be on Cameo?
Yes, Danhausen is on Cameo.
You are?
/ Danhausen.
Oh.
Yes, Danhausen is approaching his 500th cameo coming up.
Ooh, and which was your favorite?
Well, Danhausen was asked to, he didn't know until the end of it, when the question popped, but Danhausen had asked someone to get married, apparently.
Okay, so you asked someone to get married for someone else.
For someone else, yes. It was quite the shocker at the end. I'm sure Danhausen was just as shocked that Danhausen was doing the proposal as the proposee.
And did they say yes?
Danhausen does not know.
Oh, that's right. You don't know. You're not there. You wouldn't know.
Danhausen doesn't know when this is being received or anything. They can just do it whenever.
What happens if it's out there and, like, the person just said no?
History has been made by Danhausen regardless.
That would mean you're 0 for 1.
Yes.
For people's marriage proposal.
But Danhausen also, same week, was asked to a different type of proposal. It was a girlfriend proposal, to be their girlfriend. That one, Danhausen is 1-0, I believe.
I have to assume that you are the female's favorite wrestler if someone's asking for that, right?
One would think, but who knows? Who knows in this world?
That's a crazy ask. Like, let me get... Or if the guy, if it's his favorite wrestler, and then he asked, I don't even know how that would work.
No, it's just random Danhausen asking you out for some reason for someone else. It's like high school.
I gotta think you're not that serious about the relationship if you're using Cameo.
Maybe they both love that Danhausen.
They do. I mean, everybody loves that Danhausen.
This is true.
One thing I don't love, and I'd like to get your take on it, because I was just there tonight. Do you like Walmart?
No. Danhausen sometimes likes their deals, though.
What kind of deals?
Captain Crunch pancakes. Have you had them?
No.
They sell them there, and it's only there. They had, what is it? Cheetos mac and cheese. Have you tried it?
Oh.
It was quite nice. What else? They have weird things there sometimes. They have the WWE ice cream bars, if you're lucky.
I have had them.
Those are good.
They are.
They don't have the chocolate, but Danhausen didn't care about the chocolate anyway, so up it's. Up yours, Danhausen says.
The Cheetos mac and cheese, that was on purpose?
Yes, Danhausen did it for his Reviewhausen television show.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's not, I thought...
Danhausen must try things, but then it was actually pretty good, if we're being quite honest.
After someone proposes on Cameo, would that maybe be the date they go on? Like, they have some cheese...
They should. This is a good suggestion. Perhaps you should be on Cameo, suggesting as follow-ups.
Maybe. Or if things go wrong, I could help the poor guy.
Perhaps if they go awry, you can suggest them in another way.
Is Walmart where you get the teeth from your jar, for your jar?
Oh, they don't sell human teeth at Walmart.
I gotta be honest, everyone I saw walking around, I don't even know if they had their own human teeth.
Oh, my. No, Danhausen has never gotten teeth at Walmart.
Would you get the jar there?
You could get the jar there. This is true, yes. Perhaps there's a deal on a mason jar of some sort, but Danhausen no longer uses glass jars. Too many have shattered during matches. Danhausen needs those for later in the match, and his opponent sometimes, perhaps on purpose, if they're not a clumsy fool, kicks it over and it shatters, and then Danhausen doesn't have teeth.
Can we name a couple of the clumsy fools who've done such things?
Yes, that menace. Mordecai did it on purpose. Yes, he did it. Also known as Kevin Thorne, a vampire. From the WWF ECW, if you will.
Uh-huh.
He did it on purpose, Danhausen thinks, to try to win. Who else did this? Craig Mitchell. Actually, it was the referee. Did this at Freelance Underground. I believe the referee went down to count a pin, and it kicked him right out of the ring. Shattered all over the floor.
You know who I think would do something like that? Because he just seems like that kind of guy. I feel like RJ City would do something like that.
Yes, he's a menace sometimes, but he's also Danhausen's great friend.
He is. We had a question for you about RJ City, and it comes from Bobby Roberts, and he wanted to know which swear words remind you of RJ City and Warhorse.
Let's see. Well, Warhorse, clearly, he's always using the Tookus word, if you will. We will get taken off the air if we swear on this television show.
Yes.
So, let's see. RJ City, he says crapulence, pumpernickel, and what else? He says all the swears, actually. He said them on Danhausen's television show and almost got us kicked off the air.
Oh, no.
Many times.
Do you have a favorite swear word?
Well, Danhausen says up yours. That gets past the censors. What else? You can say, also, people try to tell Danhausen that up yours is a swear word. Absolutely not. If you're a baby, maybe. Also, they try to say that hell is a swear word. It's not. Not at all. Also, Jake something says a good catchphrase. He says, eat shit. It's funny. It makes Danhausen laugh. He tells people this and he punches them in the face. You'll censor that. Danhausen will not be seen swearing.
I'll believe it. I'll believe it. I just had another question about swear words, and now I can't think of it because I'm laughing so much. We'll go back to it. We're going to try not to swear too because the holidays are coming.
Yes, you cannot swear. You'll get no presents.
Yes. Do you enjoy the holidays?
Yes, Danhausen likes buying gifts for all of his friends and family.
Okay, do you enjoy getting gifts or giving gifts more?
Giving them. Danhausen would rather just buy the things he wants. But Danhausen likes to give gifts.
What's the worst gift you've ever been given?
Let's see. Danhausen's usually given pretty good gifts, but let us think for 1 second. Danhausen got the, what did he get? It's a gift card to a gas station once or something.
Was it just a gas station?
It's just a gas station gift card. Bought gas with it. It was not necessarily a bad gift, but it certainly was just to buy gasoline.
You'd have to assume that the person bought it just before seeing you, right?
Yes, perhaps. Perhaps on the way there.
Yeah. Right?
Maybe Danhausen was an arsonist.
That's...
But it's not.
Would they give it to you, like, attached to it, like an empty gas tank? Kind of like make it...
No, just in a card. It said, Happy Holidays. Here's gas. Here's some gasoline for you.
Did you...
Adventures.
How long did it take you to use that?
Probably a day. Probably filled up his tank next day. So it's actually, you know what? This is a good gift.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was going to have to spend $25.76 on gasoline.
What's the best gift you've ever given?
That Danhausen is given?
Mm-hmm.
Well, last year, Danhausen booked himself on Andy Williams, the Butcher Blade, if you will. Mm-hmm. He got himself booked on the Every Time I Die Kid the Season show because Danhausen's wife, Lulu La Duchess à Derrière, his favorite band, one of them, is Glassjaw, and they were playing a set. So Danhausen got himself booked and took us to the show on her birthday to see Glassjaw, who never really plays a show.
That's a great gift.
So Danhausen got to wrestle, and she got to see one of her favorite bands.
And was she excited?
Yes, very. And Danhausen, we got the set list for her.
Oh. That's very nice.
Very nice.
That's a very thought. It is very evil.
Yes.
It's a lot more thoughtful than a gas card.
Yeah, well, yes. You know, it took a lot of gas to get there, though.
So they took you to the show, probably.
Right, perhaps you can look at it that way.
Yeah, the gas card. That's really not putting much thought into this.
Again, it's not a terrible gift. It's just not one of the favorites.
Do you think we put too much pressure on giving gifts to each other?
Yes, absolutely. Just have fun with it. You know your friends and family. Buy them a thing they like.
Do you wrap gifts?
Yes, they're quite terrible, I'm told.
So people critique it.
Yep. Danhausen should pay someone professionally to do so. Like Danhausen's assistant Davis. It's a good idea.
I think you should gift somebody those curtains.
Well, Danhausen cannot take these. They are attached by the seams to the ceiling, it would appear.
Oh, wow. You really don't want people taking those.
Shades of different puke colors. Puke green, puke brown, puke yellow.
How would you react if you opened those and those were your gift?
It would be quite menacing. Quite terrible.
Where would you hang them in the house?
The trash, obviously. Hang them right in the garbage can.
You know who I feel like would have curtains like that?
RJ City?
Close. Dalton Castle.
Ah, yes! Why do you think that? He has nice things.
I don't know. They just seem very peacockish.
They're not vibrant enough. He's very vibrant.
That's true. Maybe they're for like a dark room.
Yes, perhaps. Perhaps
Yeah.
they look like someone's pants.
Mm-hmm. I can see him wearing those pants.
I mean, perhaps that might be stylish, but who knows?
I guess we'll have to ask him one time.
We'll ask Dalton about his curtains.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good question for you. I wrote down a bunch of questions. I was very prepared for you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Excellent reporting.
If you could have the teeth of any wrestler living or dead, who would it be?
Ooh. Actually, Mick Foley's teeth would be quite nice. Because he lost his teeth in the Hell in a Cell, you know. Mm-hmm. One was in his ear ball. Right there. Pull it out. Give it to Danhausen. That's a good teeth tooth for the collection, if you will. That's a good one.
Would you mark it special, or would you just throw it in with the other teeth?
No, it would go in the special slot with David Arquette's teeth. Danhausen has David Arquette's teeth.
And how did that happen?
Well, David messaged... Actually, RJ City said, "Hello, Danhausen, how do you do?" Seemed resentful at first. And he said, "David would like to send you a gift. What is your address?" And then Danhausen provided RJ with Danhausen's address. And then when Danhausen arrived home, back in the States, there was a gift awaiting. And it was David Arquette's tooth with a wonderful, lovely note. It's quite nice.
So, I know it wasn't Christmas, but that's probably the best gift you got, right?
Yes. Splendid gift.
It wasn't in one of the broken jars, was it?
No. Danhausen has his set aside.
Oh, so you have a special.
This is special. That's the celebrity teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Very famous.
How did you get into teeth collecting?
Going around here and there. Just traveling the States, if you will. Going to random oddity shops.
Mm-hmm.
Find some nice pairs of teeth, if you will.
I guess I've never been on the lookout, so I don't see them.
You should look. Nashville has some good ones.
Oh, do that. Okay, that's good to know. I feel like that should be on their website.
Prioritize next time you're in Nashville.
Next time I'm in Nashville, gotta find teeth. Gotta look for teeth.
Yes.
Gotta go to an oddity shop. Okay.
No, see, the more you know.
What's your favorite town you've been to?
Ooh. Well, Danhausen was not able to go this year, but usually Danhausen goes to Salem every year. Has a nice time, very evil time.
Where they had the witch trials.
Yes. Danhausen goes to... there's a pizza place there. It's quite nice. It has Darth Vader painted on the wall. What else is there? There's a comic book store that's very nice. Danhausen remembers none of the names. Bewitched is there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looks very evil there. Wonderful.
What's your favorite comic book?
Moon Knight.
It's a good one.
Yes. When it first came back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Also, Captain America, written by Ed Brubaker.
So I don't see you as a Captain America fan.
Yep, he invented the, well, he didn't invent him, but the Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm. Bucky.
Yes, Bucky. He didn't invent Bucky, but he invented the Winter Soldier.
I see.
Morbius, old 90s Morbius.
How long have you been into comic books?
Since I was about 5. Used to collect Morbius, the 90s ones.
Okay.
That's what Dan started with, and Batman.
Did you save them all?
There are some, but they're destroyed because they're so old.
Oh,
They're
no.
probably thrown in a garbage bag and stored in a garage.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
If only you kept them.
Well, they're probably not worth much because Dan hasn't bought Morbius #1 for about $10 recently.
Oh, yeah, so they're probably not really worth that much.
Yep.
What's your dream match stipulation? Like, if you could have a dream match, what would the kind of
Stipulation or a match?
stipulate? Let's do a stipulation.
Ooh, let's see. Danhausen has always been fond of the Hell in a Cell match.
Okay.
Because Danhausen's favorite match, first match he saw, was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, Bad Blood, 1997, where Kane ripped off the doors.
I remember that one. Now,
Okay.
when you say you saw it, you weren't in attendance, were you?
No, Danhausen just saw it after the fact. Yes.
Did you watch a lot of wrestling growing up?
Yes. Since 1996 or 7 or so.
And who was the first wrestler that really made an impression on you?
Kane.
Kane?
Kane, yes, of course. Also, though, Danhausen remembers this. He told him when he saw him. Mick Foley as Cactus Jack and Terry Funk as Chainsaw Charlie got pushed off of the Raw entrance ramp by the New Age Outlaws. But they played it 9,000 times that night on repeat. So Danhausen will always remember that.
I do remember that. Yeah, that's right.
Yep, happened over and over and over and over again for 2 hours.
Do you think that's just because they have to fill time?
Yes, probably. Let us go back and see as the New Age Outlaws push Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack off the ledge again. Dear God, Jim Ross.
Let's say Ring of Honor has some time to kill in their next broadcast, and they're like, all right, Danhausen, we need you to do something, but we're going to replay it 40 times tonight. But you can do whatever you want. What would you do?
Anything.
Anything.
Danhausen will eat pizza, and they will have to show it over and over and over again. Pizza live on air. And they'll just repeat it as a highlight. Because Danhausen will not get hurt, and he gets to enjoy a nice, hot, fresh slice of pizza.
Do you like, what's your pizza topping? What's your go-to topping?
Pepperoni and mushroom, you know.
That's a good one.
It's just very simple, very evil. Have you heard of Luigi Primo?
I have not.
He makes the best pizza. He's the best wrestler.
Okay. Where can I get his pizza?
He's on Twitter. You could find one on him. He actually, right now, he's selling a t-shirt. Danhausen bought one. He ships it inside a pizza box with his logo on it.
I would buy that.
Yes, and it has a classic, the t-shirt itself is a classic style pizza box logo. It's the best thing Danhausen has ever seen.
Speaking of t-shirts, do you design your t-shirts?
Danhausen has lots of input on his t-shirts. He says, I would like this, 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 and this. Please draw it. And then he usually says yes or no, and then they repeat the process.
What's your favorite t-shirt of yours?
Ooh, well, it is probably... There's some good ones. Danhausen has some good ones. But the first one that Danhausen's favorite was by Nico Newport. Danhausen was doing Atlanta, Georgia for Ring of Honor. First time in Georgia. And they came up to Danhausen with artwork that they had created. It was a VHS design, like a horror movie. So then Danhausen said, this is wonderful. Can Danhausen buy this and put it on t-shirts? And it has become one of Danhausen's top-selling t-shirts easily.
Have you ever been anywhere that wasn't a wrestling show and you saw someone wearing one of your t-shirts?
Danhausen personally, no, but Danhausen's friends and family, yes.
Oh, and how do they react to that?
They usually will send a cellular text message to Danhausen saying, just saw someone in public wearing your shirt, or this happens as well. They will be wearing a Danhausen shirt, and someone will yell, love that Danhausen. Yes, they're usually quite taken back by it.
That's actually pretty awesome. I'm glad they don't, like, curse at them or anything.
No! Danhausen just says, Who'd think any differently? Of course they're wearing a Danhausen shirt.
I feel like everybody should be wearing a Danhausen shirt.
Yes, so does Danhausen. Go buy one now if you're watching this.
Yes, it's at Pro Wrestling Tees. It's just Pro Wrestling Tees / Danhausen, right?
Yes, very easy. Also, the Hot Topic shirt has finally released.
Yes, I did see that today.
No, today. It dropped today. Whatever day, probably not when this gets released, but it was
Correct.
recording.
Yeah, as we were recording, I saw it.
Yes.
I'll make sure to put a link to it.
Search Danhausen on Hot Topic.
Yes, or follow you on Twitter at Danhausen. It's
Danhausen AD.
That's right, Danhausen AD. Did someone have Danhausen at Danhausen?
I believe so.
That's crazy.
Yes, they stole it.
Ah, thieves.
Yes. Menaces.
Who do you think's behind that?
Van Velzen, probably. Velzen. Van Velzen. Yes, that's it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good.
It's RJ City.
Probably. I think you're probably right. Would you? Here's a great question that I love to ask every wrestler. Do you use a fanny pack?
Sometimes. Usually Danhausen carries a purse, though.
Oh, like a man purse or an actual purse?
An actual purse, but it is shaped like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, and what's in there?
Usually Danhausen carries, if you didn't notice, Danhausen wears makeup. This right here, this red. So Danhausen will keep his makeup in there. Candy sometimes. Usually a sack of money. And a jar of teeth, of course. But of course, who doesn't?
What's your go-to candy?
Well, actually, where are they at? They're not over here. Fanhausens have been sending Danhausen Twizzlers lately. Poland peel, cherry, and Sour Patch Kids. And Danhausen's very excited because they're sending him Australian candy soon.
Ooh, anything like in particular?
Yes, there are Sour Patch Kids flavored like cola.
Ooh.
And Danhausen likes the Haribo cola candies, so hopefully these are quite nice.
How do you feel about Nerds on a Rope?
Those are delicious. Have you had sweetheart ropes?
I have not.
Those are wonderful too.
Oh. I have 2 kids, and they just got for Halloween. Are you familiar with Zombie Skittles?
No, what is this?
Zombie Skittles it's a bag of regular Skittles, except one Skittle inside the bag tastes like absolute garbage.
Why would you do that?
That's the point. Yes, that's the point. So you're eating the regular Skittles and then just...
when the yellow ones come up anyway, you just toss them to the side.
But what if you're getting rid of the good ones and keeping the bad one?
This is terrible. Danhausen does not gamble with candy. These are like Harry Potter jelly beans.
Why do you get rid of the yellow ones?
They're bad. They taste like lemon. Oh, wait, no. Are they green apple ones now instead of lime?
I don't know. I thought all Skittles tasted the same. They were just different colors.
Who knows? Scientists, probably.
We better put out a study on that. I'm sure Skittles all taste the same. I'm pretty sure.
They can't taste like... One tastes like purple, one tastes like cherry.
What does purple taste like?
You know what purple tastes like.
You mean like grape?
Yes, delicious.
Oh, I thought purple was its own taste.
It kind of is sometimes. It doesn't taste like grapes, that's for sure.
No, nothing really. Have you ever had candy that tasted like marker smell?
Yes. Runts. Banana runts.
Banana runts. You know what's now that you bring that up, because runts made me think of this, it's a really disgusting thing. Candy out of a vending machine. Like...
Those are good.
Loose candy.
Yes.
You eat that?
Yes, if it's available.
Just hitting in a vending machine and then you... I mean, as a kid, I did it thousands of times, but like, you turn it and then candy comes out of this like...
Instant gratification for a quarter.
Disgusting slot.
Yes, you get a sweetheart type candy usually.
Yeah, well, I used to get runts a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. And
banana. Like teeth.
Yes, I would go for banana. Banana was my favorite.
See? Terrible.
So you keep candy in your fanny pack. Yes. Do you guard your fanny pack, or do you keep your fanny pack hidden when you're not?
Well, it's wrapped around Danhausen's shoulder because it is a purse.
Okay.
So usually Danhausen has it with him at all times.
Because you need close access to candy and
teeth.
And teeth.
And money.
Did you ever need all 3 things at the same time?
You always need all 3 things at the same time. What if you run out of candy? You have to buy more with your money. Very simple math.
What are the teeth for?
Pouring in your opponent's mouth, your enemies.
Mm.
You have to feed them to your enemies.
How's
See,
that?
it backs them long enough to where you can kick them in the face or punch them in the groin.
When did you realize that you could use teeth in the ring?
Last year,
And
when
how did-
Danhausen had an opponent on the ground, actually it came from another person. Danhausen was pulling someone's face. He had a surfboard stretch on someone and was pulling their face back, and he posted a picture. And then someone said you should put teeth in their mouth, and Danhausen said, "You know what? That's $1 billion idea." So Danhausen started collecting teeth and started pouring them in their mouth, and then kicking them in the face. Because it's quite disgusting if you ask Danhausen.
it is. When are you going to start collecting the $1 billion for the idea?
Probably next year.
Okay. I hope that works out for you.
1 million this year, maybe 1 billion next.
Speaking of opponents, did I see today you're going to be facing Brian Johnson at the final battle?
Yes. Will this come out before final battle?
Yes, it will.
Wonderful. Yes, Danhausen is going to take care of that menace.
Mhm.
He's on the Twitter machine going, "Hello, I'm Brian Johnston. I'm grumpy all the time and I suck." He says this, and then he yells at Danhausen, and he says Danhausen is terrible. And he keeps calling Danhausen a clown. Danhausen is not a clown. It doesn't make any sense. So, Danhausen will make him rue the day.
Are you going to get some extra special teeth for him?
Possibly. Do you know where to get them?
I do. I live in New Jersey,
Ah!
so you might have to make a trip to New Jersey, or I could go for you and find them and send them to you.
Yes, leave them at the front post.
Okay, I will, and I'll leave them out for you.
Thank you.
Well,
Cookies for Santa Claus.
teeth for Danhausen.
Yes.
Do I just write Danhausen on them?
Yes, that will do. Danhausen knows who Danhausen is.
That's true. Well, it was great. It was great talking to you, Danhausen.
Yes, wonderful. Very good.
What's up, everybody? We're back, and now we are here with Donovan Danhausen, the creator of Danhausen. How's it going, man?
Good. I don't think I've done this with full makeup on.
Do you want to do it with full makeup on?
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought, you know what? Go ahead.
I've done it where I cleaned off most of it for high spots, where we did a character one with Effie and Warhorse and Dan the Dad and Jake Manning and but I had it just looks like I have a dirty face when I clean it off and it's not fully cleaned.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How long does the makeup usually take?
10 minutes now.
That's it?
I think I texted you and I was like, I'll be ready in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it was around 10, 15 max. Because I used to switch it and do different horror makeups. And then I decided on one. And
what made you decide on this one?
It was my favorite. It was the easiest to do. Also, I can kind of play around. Well, at the time, I could kind of play around with it. Now it's just I don't play around with it too much. But yeah, this one is just the most aesthetically, I think, digestible. To where I can market it and put it on things and people can recreate it easily. And it stemmed from, I don't know if you're going to ask this.
I was. It's going to come out of my mouth, so go ahead. You take it.
Where it came from?
Yeah.
My wife is a burlesque dancer and she was doing Theater Bazaar, which is a Halloween-themed event in Detroit where everyone gets dressed up and there's different sword swallowing, fire breathing, burlesque, weird stuff where people are hanging from chains, things like that. It's just in different rooms. And I was like, I'll be Pazuzu from The Exorcist, but I'll make it my own thing kind of. And the first version of this was more straight up just me looking at a picture of Pazuzu from The Exorcist and just going, okay, I'll recreate that. So this is definitely a transformed, evolved version of that into my own thing. But that's where it originally stemmed through, which always annoys me when people are like, you're Sting. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I am Pazuzu from The Exorcist.
I mean, I feel like they're just lazy. Just they see black and white and they're like,
well,
hey.
also Sting that they're talking about is the Crow.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's just he did the same thing I did. Like,
Yeah.
I took mine from Pazuzu. He got inspiration of his from The Crow. Like,
It always amazed me because I've listened to podcasts with like Eric Bischoff and a bunch of other WCW guys. There was like no, like they just did it and they just hoped they could get away with it. And then the makers of the movie just didn't say anything about it. Like you could not do that today.
no, they would be like, that's ours.
Yeah, and they would like sue you out of like.
I got annoyed yesterday because every once in a while someone will post something who doesn't know who I am and they'll like comment. It was in this instance, it was Darklight was posting that I have a stocking now.
Mhm.
And someone commented, that guy's stealing from Sting and King Diamond. And the avatar on this guy was the Crow.
Mhm.
And I commented and I was like, you have a Crow avatar. How are you calling me out for taking from Sting when he took from the Crow, which is your avatar? And I said, you have a Crow avatar, and he instantly blocked me.
That's what makes it. That's what is like so infuriating. Like they'll say something, and then you'll just say one thing back, and they block.
Well, it's just like the irony of that.
Yeah, it's like you got really nothing going on in your life if that's.
No, and I'm like, I don't care that Sting has Crow makeup. Like that's cool. The Crow is cool. Like I don't know. So
Yeah.
I just like don't try to call me out for that when you have the avatar of the thing he took from. And I also posted a picture of the Pazuzu makeup because that's what I took mine from.
Right. Does it get old like even having to defend yourself?
No, it's just every once in a while. I only did it this instance because the guy had a Crow avatar. And I was just like, come on, man.
So I saw a bunch of pictures of you before you started doing all this.
Yeah.
Like what I read also when I do these, I read up online. It said that you weren't really having fun wrestling when you decided what would be fun, and this was the kind of culmination of that. Like walk me through how that happened.
So the easiest way I can explain this is when you're not having fun, because usually you're not making money when you first start wrestling.
Mhm.
You should at least be having fun, or like, I don't know, you should be getting something out of it. And when you're getting nothing out of it,
Mhm.
it sucks. Like I was like, wrestling.
You're talking to a writer.
Yeah, just like
Like
is literally either the best job or the worst job.
Mhm.
And it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. So at the time, I was like, this is the worst job in the world. Why am I doing this? I'm like, I'm getting beat up. I'm losing money. At that time, I didn't feel like I was learning anything. And I was like, and I'm not having fun.
Mhm.
And I'm putting miles on my car. I was like, this sucks. I was like, I can quit and just work a regular job, which is fine. Or I was like, I can try to do what I feel like doing and not doing what people want me to do or what I think people want me to do. And at that point, I just didn't care. It was like I took out the safety net, I feel like. I was just like, I'm just going to do this. And then I was let it snowball and evolve from there. I was like, I'm going to be a horror character because that's what I like. I like horror movies. And so I started to do that, and that kind of caught on. But not enough. It wasn't connecting because wrestling's already very niche.
Mhm.
And then horror is niche, and then you combine those, and it creates a smaller crowd that's going to be into you. So then I was like, well, I started to like, I'm sarcastic and whatever in real life. And I was like, well, what if I let that part in and kind of be more of myself mixed with a horror character? And I was like, let's see how that works, because some of my favorite movies are like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness and Return of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw 2. And those are all, hey, the first ones of these movies are very serious and just straight up horror movies. And then the second ones are very tongue in cheek and they have fun.
Mm.
I was like, if I'm having fun, the crowd will notice that I'm having fun, hopefully. And then that's what worked.
Well, I've read and seen a lot online that most people in wrestling, the person they are in the ring or their character is just them turned up to a 10. So this is just like you turned up to you.
This is me turned up to
Okay, so you've gone double.
I've gone double because I've always heard that where it's like, just turn it up to 11, get that little notch. And I'm like, well, let's see what we can do if we turn Danhausen up to 20. So that's what that is. That's why it's so ridiculous and out there and just literally whatever I feel like doing, I'm like, I'm going to do it. Because what's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work. Who cares? I do something else the next day.
Yeah. Do you feel like to really go to the next level, you got to turn them up to a 30?
Maybe. I don't know yet. Right now, 20 is doing pretty good.
I mean, yeah, you've had like
Coast at 20.
yeah, you've had a good bump in the last year or two.
It's been just over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Last October is when it really started to move, and I think that's because people were like, "Oh, we'll book this. We'll book the scary guy for October."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Nope." I was like, "You're going to." I like took that window of opportunity, and I was like, "I'm going to make it so they want to book me the rest of the year too."
Mm-hmm.
Because I see that a lot. Like every year, there's the scary guys who get booked like more during October, and then they're kind of gone the rest of the year. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm here to stay.
Right. Do you remember the moment when you were like, I think this is actually catching on?
Yes. I want to say, I'm trying to think. Maybe it was in October at some point. AIW gave me a huge platform in Ohio to kind of do my character stuff more and develop it. Because I was with the production, which Derek Direction and Eddie Only. And at one point, I think I just was like, I wasn't talking because I don't like doing promos originally. And I was like, well, I'll just say like weird stuff, weird things I think are funny in the background of these promos. And I started getting more comfortable and going. But I would say the first real like moment of it was me versus Effie in July. So there was like a little hint of it there where, because he was like, hey, let's do all the weird stuff we want to do. Let's do the weird promos. Let's do this and have fun with it. And that was the first like where I felt comfortable of doing anything like that. And we had 6 minutes because I think we got the show was running long. So our time got cut from 10 minutes to 6 minutes to 5 minutes, I think. And I'm still happy with that match because we didn't do anything. It's not like a technically great match or anything, but like I think people still talk about that match here and there. So I'm like, that's fine. It's like a random 5-minute match off a show in last July. Like, so I've tried building off of any time I get. I try to make it count, and that's what we did. And I kind of built a whole career off of that that 5-minute match is where I would say it started to really, really like build up.
Do you try to think of things like, are you character first or are you in ring first? Like what comes to mind first?
So I'm not the most athletic person, and I think I found a perfect character for that.
Right.
I can't do the flips. I can wrestle. Like that's what I was doing before I did this. Was just you only get so far being a good wrestler, unless you're like Daniel Bryan. Like. Like right. you have to like even he has a character like, but I just feel like you have to be ridiculously good to get over with just a character or just your wrestling. But even then, I think people still need something to grasp onto to like relate to you with. Because if you're just a really really good wrestler, people in the audience probably aren't really really good wrestlers, and if that's the only thing they have to relate to you, they're not going to actually like connect with you.
Right. Well, there are things that you can do in the ring, and they don't have to be like flips and stuff, but there are things that you can incorporate that would be things that a character like Danhausen would do.
Yeah, which is what I do. I do weird bendy things.
Right.
Like not necessarily flips, but like I fly in through the top rope and do the German suplex and stuff like that. And I started incorporating when I can, like weird submission holds that put weird, like I do the octopus stretch, but I do the tilt-a-whirl first now. What's the Black Widow that AJ Lee was doing?
Yeah.
I do that because I'm like, that's a cool looking move, and that's a really weird like Danhausen move where I can pose and I can smile while I'm doing it, and it's a good camera move. I try to think of things for Danhausen to do that are good for a camera to get a hold of, and stuff that I can put my face out there on. So.
Okay. I heard in a podcast recently, and it was I think X-Pac was talking about it, and he was saying that like you can be great at wrestling, but it's the things in between. Like, what are you doing in the ring when you're not doing the wrestling thing? Do you sometimes like?
That's all I do now.
Yeah, try and focus on what you're doing in between the moves.
Well, when I'm selling for an opponent, I'm always doing something.
Right.
And I'm not taking away from whatever they're doing. I'm just making sure that like it's interesting still.
Right.
Because yeah, it's all the in between stuff. Like usually the beginnings of my match now are just me interacting with the audience or my opponent or the referee or whatever I feel like doing.
Mhm.
It kind of has become improv to an extent of what I'm just like, where they're like, well, what do you want to do out there? And I'm like, we'll go out there. It'll be fine.
Have you ever come across an opponent where they just didn't get you?
Probably, but I feel like by the end of it, I can't think of one offhand.
Mhm.
But I would say, like, I think by the end of them watching me or in being in the ring with me, they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Mhm.
Because I think it takes some people longer to digest what I'm putting out,
Right.
which is fully understandable, and I get that. Like, it's not for everybody, but I also at the same time I feel like it is for everybody.
Mhm. But do you think social media helps with that because you have a chance to build the character before you get out there?
I tell new students this. I'm like, utilize social media. I was like, most places that you're working for are not going to push you in a storyline or push your character. I was like, that's up to you.
Mhm.
I was like, they're going to push the guys who've been with them probably. Maybe eventually they will. I was like, but you should put in the work on your own to try to get yourself over on the internet and get your own storylines over on the internet. Like, don't be pushing it on their show to where it's like detrimental to them. But I was like, you can, like, I did it.
Mhm.
I was like, I fully would make vignettes for myself and everything, and then get parts of those over. I would pick pieces from those to put on the show that wouldn't affect anything the actual promoter wanted. Like, you just fit it in. Yeah, because I told him, I was like, no one, like, not in a bad way, but no one cares about your character. You have to make them care about it.
Right.
Like, that's not in a negative, like, no one cares about you, but just no one cares about your character unless you make them care about it. So you need to do the work to make them care.
You obviously have an artistic background. Were you always artistic as a kid? Like, how did that?
Yeah, just drawing and things like that. Yeah, Halloween was big around my house. Big surprise. So like every year my dad would make me a costume, like homemade costume, and like paint my face or make me a mask.
What was your lamest costume? Like thinking back.
I don't know if I had one. Like, because like my dad made me a homemade Kane costume. He would like do me up as a vampire or like a zombie with full makeup.
Mhm.
It's not lame. I think just the one year I picked being Ghostface from Scream.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he was disappointed because he's like, oh, well, we just have to buy a costume then.
Right.
Like, it wasn't lame, but I think that was just the one where it was like, I didn't do anything special. I was just basically what everybody else was that year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
One year, I feel like it was like, you know, that one year when you're not sure if you're too old to go out trick-or-treating, you're not like, I didn't think I was going out, and then last minute my friends wanted me to go out, and I had a Pittsburgh Pirates jersey and a Pittsburgh Pirates hat, and I put that on with like a pair of my baseball pants. But the funny part about that was I'm not even a Pirates fan.
You just had it on. Yeah.
Well, I think I was big into Barry Bonds at the time.
Okay.
And just I had those two things, and I went out, and I saw a picture, and like those are the only pictures that have like survived. Like I can't find any other Halloween pictures.
Costumes, no. I do. It was, I don't know. It was the only thing I remember as a kid not liking the costume. The old Spider-Man costumes, but they had the eyeballs cut out. I think he wears it in the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the joke of him wearing that.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that costume. It had like the tie in the back, and it just I was like, why don't they make technology where it's a full white eye and I can see through it? And now they have that, but as a kid, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah,
You can't see the eyeballs.
I think it's because like back then, like I'm sure there were a couple costume companies, but it wasn't like a thing that people thought they could make a ton of money off of.
No, probably.
Because back then, costumes only really happened. You only found costumes during Halloween.
Well, because there was there was conventions, but there was no cosplay conventions or anything.
Right.
There's probably a couple people here and there, and then it definitely wasn't every other person.
And now you can go to the Disney store and get like these $60, $70
all year round.
Yeah, my kid has
the Disney princesses. Like you can get those any day of the week.
Yeah. So we did mention it in the other interview, but you're going to be at Final Battle.
Yes.
You're wrestling. We kind of touched on it as Danhausen, but like you personally, how's the bubble going?
Good. I don't mind it. I wake up, I work out, I eat I shower. I eat again usually. I watch TV. I'm reading a book this time. I got the Young Bucks book. Um, and then I usually eat again. Like
It's a lot of eating.
I try to do more of these interviews because usually I don't have time. Like even though it's like COVID era and quarantine and whatever, I usually if I'm back in Montreal, I have a 6-year-old running around, so I don't have time to do like interviews. Certainly not in character. Yeah, so like I was like, well, I'll try to get more of these done while I'm here this time because I like doing them. I'm just like, I literally don't have time usually.
Yeah, it took us a long time to coordinate this one.
Yeah, it took over a month, I think, to coordinate this. Just
longer than that. It's been like 3 months.
Is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, before, like, I mean, a lot of things happened in between. Like, it wasn't just you. Well, see, I mean, we could pull the curtain back on my life. So you and I, like, the best times we would have were, like, Sundays.
Yep.
I have my kids, like, every other Sunday. So, like, when they're around, I can't do this. So, like, for me, it was like, well, I can't do next weekend, and let's skip the next week. You know, like, so we kind of, like, played calendar tag for a couple months.
And it finally lined up.
Yeah. So, like, moving forward, you know, you're in Ring of Honor now. There's, you know, you had the AEW thing. Like, where do you see the character going? Like, what's the ultimate end for you?
TV, I want to be a household name.
Okay.
That's like, I do the Good Night Hausen, like, late night show and everything, but, like, I would like to break the barrier. Like, actually, I like doing those things. I like going out. I did the Pro Wrestling Tees video where I went in public, like Conan O'Brien, and like filmed skits there and everything. I like doing that stuff. So I would like to do more of the mainstream things and kind of help break the barrier down to where like independent wrestlers or wrestlers in general can do mainstream things. Because right now I feel like it's The Rock, and he's not a wrestler anymore, and like John Cena, who's not really a wrestler anymore. Like, but those guys did it. I'm certainly not as giant as those guys, but like that's the type of stuff I would like to do because then that means more money for wrestling. It means more eyes on wrestling, and it means more money for wrestlers because that's what like I had many conversations with Effie about this. Where we need to, I think I've said this a lot now, but wrestling fans will always go to wrestling shows. We need to start working towards getting their friends who don't like wrestling to come to wrestling shows. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what Effie's trying to do. And it's working. Before everything shut down, there was every single show, multiple people in our lines for like meeting us at the merch table were like, hey, this is my friend so-and-so. They don't like wrestling, but I showed them your guys' stuff and they wanted it. I would hear it back and forth. It was like whenever we were on a show, I'd hear it. And then whatever shows I was on, I would hear it. And that's what we need at wrestling shows. I was like, not every single match needs to be a 5-star wrestling match. I was like, sometimes I need to be on the show and that'll bring in a mainstream audience, maybe. Or someone, they'll just bring in people who didn't want to watch wrestling, and then maybe they'll see the wrestlers and go, actually, this is cool. And then they'll come back and go, oh, I thought wrestling was stupid. But then I came to see you, and then I saw this guy and this guy and this girl and whoever. Like,
right.
That's what needs to happen. That's how you need to grow it. You can't be like, well, wrestling's for wrestling fans only.
Yeah. That's the one thing that always, it kind of bothers me. So people like ask me, so I'm a writer, and they're like, oh, so what do you write about? I was like, well, I write about professional wrestling, and I host a podcast about professional wrestling. Yeah. And the first thing they say is like, oh, like WWE?
Exactly.
And I'll go, yeah, but that's like not the only one. And they'll go, oh, like there's other ones? And I'm like, yes.
The average person on the street doesn't know that.
Right.
They might know what AEW is now.
Yeah.
Because it's on TNT.
Right.
But like, yeah, it needs a change because if it just stays the same, it's not going to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it needs more characters like you have. Would you ever consider doing the character but not having it to do with professional wrestling?
Oh, yeah. Like that's what I do all the time when I'm not doing the wrestling stuff. Like what I've been doing during quarantine is mostly non-wrestling. I've been finding ways to do literally anything else that will get the character out there and have people see it. Like like the Conan O'Brien thing is like a huge inspiration to me because he just goes and does remote shoots or whatever. Like he'll go on location to places. I'm like, that's what I want to do as the character because I think that's it's as fun for me. Usually, like there's nothing like being in front of like a live crowd, but I really enjoy doing stuff like that and interacting with other people like character wise like that. So yeah, no, absolutely, I'd like to do that.
Here's the one question I usually end with because everybody seems to give a different answer to it. It's the first show back. COVID is done. It's your first live crowd. What do you think that's going to feel like?
Ooh, like a full-on crowd.
Yeah, like a full-on back to the way it used to be before everything happened.
I think relief. I think there'd be a sense of relief over me. Because we did the collective, and that was like I would say half of a crowd, regular crowd, and that felt great. But I was also still very like, ooh, this isn't it still. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that until it actually happens. But I'm guessing it'll be relief and like an overwhelming feeling.
Do you think I have this feeling, and it's not going to be our fault. It's just the way we are as humans. I feel like when those things come back, no matter what it is, wrestling, sports, anything, the first one or two times, it's almost like, it might not be the greatest analogy, but right after 9/11, when things started going back to normal, you did normal things, but in the back of your mind, you were like, this kind of doesn't feel.
Yeah, it's still not going to be quite back to normal.
Right. There's something about you that's uneasy. Like, I just don't know if the first two shows people are going to be like, ooh, should I be this close? Should I be yelling this?
And I think that's fine. I think there's just the fact that there'll be a crowd again when it's safe, like a full crowd. I think everybody will just be relieved. And I think everybody's wanting to go back. So I think when it finally actually happens, it'll be huge.
I personally can't wait. I'm probably going to go to every single show that's close enough.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, is it dead? Is it not coming back? And I'm like, no, I think everything that comes back is going to be bigger than ever.
Oh, yeah, because everyone want to get the hell out.
I want to go sit in a diner. Like, sitting in a restaurant with my friends, like, I want to do that. I can only imagine people who want to go to a wrestling show or a concert. Like, I'm dying to do that. Yeah. Which says a lot about me. I'm boring, I guess.
I don't know. You were naming something, but you eat many times during the day. You do a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. No, it's I can't wait to just be able to travel again and like really sit at a diner at 2 a.m. after a wrestling show is finally over with all my wrestling friends. Like, it'll just be nice, like, to have that freedom to do that again.
Do you ever think that if you ever got so popular, like you'd have to stay in the Danhausen character to like order breakfast at 2 a.m. because the waitress knows who you are?
No, last time I went out though was with Ethan Page and Josh Alexander and Jake something, and I didn't have time to clean my face. So Ethan Page just filmed it for his vlog, us at Denny's. So and one of the waitresses had to move us because she had a phobia of clowns. And I was like, I'm not a clown. It was a natural reaction, but I was just like, I'm not a clown. Like the other waitress had said, oh yeah, she's afraid of clowns. And I just went, I'm not a clown. And I was like, ugh.
What if she said she was afraid of Sting?
That's great because I'm not Sting either. So serve us, please.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Let's tell people where they can find you online. I know Danhausen mentioned it, but why don't you mention it?
Yeah. So the Patreon page is where like I do a ton of my exclusive stuff. That's where I do the review shows, the interview shows, the movie review shows, stuff like that. I just had Matt Hardy on. I had Xavier Woods. So I'm going to try to keep building that. That's patreon.com/lovethatdanhausen. Twitter is where I do most of my promoting. That and Instagram, those are both Danhausen AD. I have the Pro Wrestling Tees page /Danhausen, which then leads into the Hot Topic page, which I think we're going to promote on here. I just searched Danhausen. I don't know the link for that.
You know what I forgot to ask you? The Hot Topic thing, is that something you coordinated yourself, or how did that work?
That was because I did so well on Pro Wrestling Tees by myself.
Wow.
I was legitimately a bestseller on there, and I think I still am. And Ryan, who runs it, messaged me and was like, "Hey, Hot Topic wants you for the holidays. Do you want to?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, absolutely." It was cool because I think he put in the word for me. They probably said, "Who are your best sellers?"
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have to say me, but I think he was just like, "Oh, this guy Danhausen."
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it was probably the AEW people.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime I look at the top seller list, that's what it's dominated by is the AEW people. And then every once in a while, I get a creeped up in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have one of my shirts, but I think overall, I'm one of the best on there.
Well, after this, in this interview, in the article, I'll put the link in there, and we'll try to push you up a little bit farther.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So, well, Donovan, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And that brings another episode of Not About Wrestling to a close. Guests of the Not About Wrestling show stay in their own damn houses. If you like the show, please share it on social or leave a review on iTunes. And remember to subscribe to Not About Wrestling on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/BroBible and find the Not About Wrestling section. Thanks again for listening or watching, and see you all next week. Well, I won't see you at all. You know what I mean.